This meeting to order. And I'd ask everyone that is tuned in to this particular event to join with me and Councilmember Carbone, who will give the invocation, and Councilmember Moore, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. And I guess if you all will bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for another beautiful day. Please continue to protect us, keep us safe, be with all our first responders, nurses, doctors. Be with us tonight as we make decisions that are honoring and pleasing to you. And just protect us through these times. In your name we pray. Amen.
Wonderful. Moving in our agenda to item number 3, which is roll call and certification of quorum.
Are we going to do the pledges?
Mayor, we forgot to pledge.
I'm sorry?
We forgot to pledge.
Okay, we get ready to pray.
Okay, if you would, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Oh, wonderful. That's a super great way to start our meeting here in Pearland. And moving to item number 3 on our agenda, if you'll join me, which is roll call and certification of the quorum. And to do that, we'll do a verbal agreement. Councilmember Little.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Councilmember Alonso. Where's left of those? Councilmember Carbone.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here, Mayor.
Councilmember Perez.
Present, Mayor.
And Councilmember Owens.
Here.
Madam Secretary, I will certify a quorum for this meeting today. Moving to item number 4, citizen comments. Councilmember Little. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 4 speakers that have signed up for tonight. I'll call you in the order in which I received your speaking forms.
And Councilman Little, not all of the call-in speakers can see the screen. So if you could give them their 30-second warning, that would be helpful.
Okay. Like I said, I'll call you in the order in which I received your speaking form, and you have 3 minutes. If you don't have well, I'll remind all of you because I don't know which ones have the clock on your screen and which don't. So you'll have 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning at 30 seconds, and please wrap up your comments at the end of 3 minutes. The first person to speak is Jimmy Davis. State your name and address, please, before you begin speaking.
Councilman Little, I'm speaking on behalf of the Pearland Water Bill and Discussion Group. I don't think I'm going to need a full 5 minutes, but I'm not sure that 3 will cover it. My name's Jimmy Davis, 5004 Combs Mill Street, City Council and staff. Despite residents raising concerns and identified flaws with the 3230 plan, and no residents actually supporting it, Council approved the plan, and on April 25th, it went into effect. City staff has said multiple times that when water rates were raised effective October 1st, 2019, it was because there's a revenue shortage that the city believed was due to lack of consumption. The city has now confirmed the revenue shortage was actually because of the change that was directed in 2018 from the city manager's office, a change that was in response to a high number of resident complaints from earlier in the year that there's no record of. Per the City of Pearland CAFR 9/30/2019 final on the city website, in fiscal year 2019, we collected $55,696,046 in revenue. That's $4,641,337.17 a month. Now, since we know that the city was only billing 28 days at a time, we know that was for 336 days. not 365. Had the city billed for a full year, they would have had an additional $4,641,337.17. That is more than what the city expects to see from the rate increase. In other words, if the city just did their job right, no residents would have to pay more today. I ask for council to think about the residents you represent. The rates have gone up, and that will not change. We're stuck paying more from October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020 because of their mistake. But there's a way to make things right for residents. Council has told city staff that they have to be able to determine how much people owe for the arrearage and let us have the choice to pay it in full or not. I ask council to instruct city staff that by the end of this fiscal year, the staff, one, know the amount of arrearage still outstanding. Two, determine how much extra we have paid up to that point in the form of higher rates this year. Three, apply the higher amount paid as a credit to the account. Four, have the water rates rolled back or at a minimum frozen. There should be no rate increase for fiscal year 2021. And five, direct staff to give residents the choice to pay the full amount due with a 6-month payment plan or stay on the 3230 plan if they want. Staff will have 5 months from today to calculate the amount due, and this will also give the city time to have town halls with the residents, explain what happened, and give them options. This way, residents can make an informed decision and say, this is what I want. It gives you one last chance to make it right. Staff can also use this time to set up the system for a second billing option where we are paying based on an implemented AMI system that should be fully implemented and operational by that time. All meters can be read the same date each month, since it's a push of a button. Bills sent out in accordance with AWWA standards, and residents can pay the bill around the same time each month. Much of what residents have been saying seems to be ignored. I hope this will not be. I'd also like to bring to council's attention that the Olson and Olson report has identified documents and reports that they have seen that would be respondent to Public Information Act requests I and others have made that the City of Pearland has not provided. Since the law firm made these public record, they clearly are not subject to attorney-client privilege, and I have to ask why staff and our legal department has chosen to withhold documents contrary to the Public Information Act. Thank you.
Any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments to speak?
Councilmember Little, let me try to unmute the microphone. Councilmember Little, can you hear us?
I can. Is Mr. Sissio on the line?
She is. Just one. Okay.
Is Denise Hewitt on the line?
Yes, they both are. Maria has been unmuted.
Hi, sorry about that. I had it on mute as well. My name's Maria DeChico, and I reside at 3202 Wild Turkey Lane, Pearland, Texas. And I'm calling in because I'm a concerned resident of Pearland, along with my parents and other fellow residents. Back in September 2019, after being told that the water usage was down, then months later, finding out the water was used Why are residents being charged at higher rates, considering back then we were being charged lower rates? Council shouldn't wait, nor do y'all have to wait until the fall to lower any base rates. These executive sessions that y'all utilize, they should be done meaningful. Have talks about doing something for the residents. The city has not done anything for the residents of Pearland since the outbreak of COVID-19. Finances are tight for many, many, many people, many of our elderly individuals. Y'all just voted on April 13th to change the tier rate. Council should vote to reduce the base water rate now, returning it back to our lower rate, and give citizens a credit for the period already elapsed. As a taxpayer, I am insisting that this city have an independent investigation conducted with an agency not used or affiliated with the city. We all know how those investigations go and end up when entities that are associated with the city conduct investigations. Dissolve. We still have no answers to my satisfaction. As a taxpayer, as a resident of Pearland, my money is being used liberally, and the city needs to start becoming frugal with my money. I would like an independent investigation conducted on what happened, what staff knew about it, and it needs to be resolved at the rate at which we were paying back then, not today. That's all I have to say. Thank you for y'all's time.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Denise Hewitt. Are you on the line, Ms. Hewitt?
Yes, sir, I am. Denise Hewitt, 3404 Blue Spruce Trail, 77581. First of all, I want to set the record straight because last meeting there was a reference made that the council felt disrespected or unappreciated. I personally want to extend an apology if you have felt that from me, because that is entirely against how I feel. I support the city council. I just am pushing and asking you to help us get through this. So please do not misinterpret my intentions. The Olson & Olson report, by nature, it's just a cover-up document. It's just a management report. It's not an investigation. It wasn't publicly voted on by the council, so it's just an internal management report. It wasn't performed by an independent. It was performed by a law firm that has prior experience in defending and supporting and protecting the city. Not all interviews had any specific quotes in it. There were individuals left off that were key to the investigation. I believe it fell short of what do the customers. And I find it interesting that the 3230 plan was voted on and passed before we ever got the report. That just sort of kind of says to me that the report wasn't all that important. So why did we have this story cover up in the first place? Why were we told it was a rogue employee? Why did people continue to place out details in a narrative that obviously wasn't true? And so I've lost kind of lack of respect and trust and credibility and everything that goes now with the city seems to be in suspect and questionable. There's been requests for financial reports. It's not being provided in the public record request. I want to know how your accruals are calculated and carried. Is this by the GL? Are you working your calculation based on plan versus actuals on your revenue that was recovered, or billed versus read? I want to know if that's been inflated. I'm still trying to think how we went 18 months without any recognition. Do you not reconcile or do revenue on a monthly basis? I also am still calling for an independent audit by an outside firm, by a large outside firm, not just a small in-house auditing firm. I'm calling for a repeal on the rate increases that you made. They were passed, I believe, by council without full disclosure. I think you worked blind with that, and now that you know that there wasn't a dry summer and that there actually was accruals out here, or maybe there wasn't even an accrual out there at that point in time, maybe they just shore it up occasionally on quarters or whatever. But I'm asking for those to be repealed. Leadership, I believe that there was a directive given
Please
for
wrap your
28
comments
days.
up, ma'am.
I'm sorry, sir.
Please wrap your comments up.
Well, then I'm going to skip to a request. I'm going to ask City Council to facilitate and host a workshop. According to AWA, they support the integration of communication and public involvement as core elements of utility management. The credibility and reputation of utilities in the water profession as a whole are supported by open and ongoing communication that establishes relationships and creates a framework for understanding, trust, and cooperation. AWA recognizes that communication should be a two-way dialogue with customers, community members, public officials, and stakeholders. And so I'm really frustrated with calling and getting 3 minutes and not getting any conversation back. There's no accountability to the public. There's no accountability to the ratepayers. People are incredibly
We're not allowed
frustrated.
to carry on the conversation with you during the public comment section, so you need to.
I absolutely understand that, and that's why I'm asking for the opportunity to have a dialogue. You're not affording it. And so I'm requesting that City Council host a workshop where we can have a conversation, where we have the ability to have a two-way dialogue. I believe you owe it to the public. And so I'm assuming, Mr. Little, that my time is up.
The next speaker, Jeff Ronkill. Are you there, Mr. Ronkill?
Yes, sir. Jeff Huntley, 3912 Oakwood Drive North, Pearland, Texas, 77581. My comments tonight are in regards to the Olson & Olson report and the conflicting messages I've heard comparing statements made during council meetings and those contained in the report. It was stated over and over again that an independent investigation needs to be done in order to learn what really went on. Then we found out the city hired Olson & Olson, who has done work for the city in the past. This, to me, excludes them from being able to offer an impartial investigation. In the report, they say statements like, it is unclear to what extent the city's senior administration and finance director were aware of exactly what changes were being made to the meter reading cycle, as well as other statements like saying several meetings were being held between the utilities billing department and the public works department when the new meter reading schedule was discussed, and John Branson and Cynthia Pearson may or may not have attended those meetings. So in the city council meetings, it seems like we are led to believe city staff was working very hard on the problem and trying to find a resolution. But from these statements, it seems like senior members weren't heavily involved, even though everyone knew this was a huge deal, and yet they were unaware of what was being done to even fix it. During the council meeting, Councilman Perez said that the city fired the assistant manager of the utility billing department, yet another councilman was not aware of this fact. In a later council meeting, the same lady included her name and stated she had to resign. My question is, what was the purpose of saying she was fired? Does council think we as citizens were going to believe she was a lone scapegoat and say, oh, okay, the problem is resolved and not ask any further questions? To me, this made me question more things. So throughout the report, it seems that some places in some places, and it says the directors weren't given directly to the people, but through another party, and it seems like it's trying to skate around the actual problem. Now, we have been dealing with this water issue for many months. The city manager, Pearson's letter, discusses many mistakes that were made, and now we have lessons learned. Then the document states the deputy city manager, John Branson, and director of finance, Cynthia Pearson, all of a sudden decide to retire after this report was made public. As a citizen outside of City Hall, that strikes me as very coincidental and makes me question what types of golden parachutes and or continued benefits do they get if they retire as opposed to being fired. Also, why are these the only two affected by the issue if the report states all of city senior administration were involved? The report says the original issue was brought to their attention by various citizen complaints, but if this were true, then why were these public records that we're requesting not given to us? Did they want to withhold this information, or are emails and information being deleted? My final thoughts are the city pays a lot of money for a report by a company they do business with to soften the blame and not get to the bottom of the real problem. And frankly, if it takes the city this long to explain the facts and we still have conflicts of statements, I feel that we aren't being given the entire truth. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Mayor, that completes the citizen comments.
Okay. Let's look at our agenda. We move to item number 5, which is public hearings. There is no public hearing tonight. Moving to item number 6 is the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Little, would you indicate the items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, hello, council members. Are there any items that need to be removed?
Yes, this Woody, I believe. Remove B. Sorry, Woody. Do I?
Which one are you moving? Removing?
B, item B.
Item B.
Mayor, looks like that's the only one out of the 2, item B.
So, item A and item B, okay.
No, sir, this is Mendez. I was also asking for B, Bravo, so it's just B.
Okay, good, super. Item B has been pulled and will be handled separately. After we work the consent agenda, Councilman Rolando, would you present the consent agenda without indication?
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2020-71, which is the entire consent agenda. So moved.
Second, just more.
Ed? We have a motion second on the floor. Any comment from council? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, I believe we have a motion second on the floor here.
Councilmember Orlando?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
The motion passes as adopting resolution number 2020-71.
Okay. That information in the record. Let's move to item B, Councilman Rolando.
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2020-80. So moved.
Second.
Councilman Little?
We have a motion and a second. We are now in discussion. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Good evening. This is a resolution ratifying expenditures that have been made. We have a contract with International Pai and Body for various repairs. We have an amount that had been established. There were a number of vehicles that came in, several of them through wrecks that had been in the course of duties. And so the work was directed towards this firm. This, in some ways, is a pass-through from insurance monies. So I think this will get, we do have as was outlined in the memo, we are going to be putting this out and firming up the contracting. But this particular element increases the amount, bringing that forward to ratify and confirm those expenditures over what had been established so that we can clear that up and move ahead with a new setup. And nothing to add, sir.
Council, have any question or comment based on staff report?
Adrian, you going first, or you want me to?
Oh, if you wouldn't mind, I just have a quick question, and I'll let you go if that's okay.
Okay.
Clay, I think you may have answered the question I had, but it was my understanding that this was kind of a pass-through. Can you just confirm, is it like a total pass-through? I mean, do we have a deductible? I'm just curious what the risk pool affords us in this area.
So it probably depends on whether, it's our insurance or what the other ones is. I will say part of the plan that we discussed on that Saturday was setting up a separate fund, but neither here nor there. It probably depends upon the type of damage and the amount and the scale and whether we're at fault or others. Trent, can you help clarify or correct anything I just said?
Sure, thank you, Clay.
These are for both vehicles, where there is insurance from, whoever caused the accident, and that is basically passed through if they have insurance. If they're uninsured, then it goes on our insurance. If we're at fault, then it goes on our insurance. So we reimburse for those except for the deductibles.
Hey, that's all I had. I just wanted some of that clarification. I kind of gathered that from the packet, but my apologies for not having time to ask that prior to the meeting. So I appreciate the response.
Yeah, that's basically what I was asking, because, we got with TML risk pool on insurance for insurance coverage, and whether we're at fault on the accident or not, one of the two. And that's what I was wondering. I don't know how that risk pool works. If we are involved in an accident, do we have a deductible that we have to pay up front, like another insurance policy? If you had one privately on your vehicle, you would pay for the deductible and the insurance to pick up the rest of it. Is that some way that we do that? And I guess I'm wondering if that is the case. Do they pay a deductible on this in the beginning, and we just, or we pay the deductible on the insurance and then they pick up the rest? And if so, how much of the total amount are we looking at? $118,000 during this period of time on page 4 or 5. Is there money that we're going to be getting back from the risk pool on our insurance? Does that money come back to us, or how does that work?
So, Councilmember Owens, this is John Branson. We do file a claim when the other individuals are at fault, and we do get recouped for that money from time to time. Some of these accidents are our own fault, and yes, we do have a deductible. I believe on all of our equipment it's $5,000, so we don't always get the entire amount back based on the work that needs to be done. But if someone else is at fault, we do file against them.
Okay, so if it's our fault, our deductible is $5,000 on say a vehicle that was wrecked in our fault?
Well, I'm sorry, that is for a total loss of a vehicle. We have, I'll have to check on our standard deductible, but I think it's $1,000 for a vehicle that it's our fault directly.
Okay, I was wondering, I don't know how much we pay for the TML to have this coverage on there. I know at one time the mayor was on the risk pool for TML on there, but I was just wondering, okay, how much do we pay for that coverage? And over the course of the last couple of years or whatever, it seemed like this year we had a bigger spike in accidents and what have you. How much money have we actually recovered on there, and what do we pay on the premium?
We can provide you with a report on that, but I don't have that information at this time.
Okay. I guess, with this kind of, I think we have, at 17 damaged vehicles, I believe it was. But I'm just trying to figure out how much we pay TML on the risk pool for coverage of that, and how much is this cost us? It seems like everything that we've done so far has been over $100,000 a year. A couple of years on there, and just kind of to see if it's worth continuing to do that, or if we are recovering money. How much have we picked up off of the total amount over the last couple of years, and where does that money go back into? Our motor pool fund, or what?
Any other question or comment from council?
I just like Mayor, somebody to look at that, gets that information back.
Mm-hmm. That was a good question. Any other question, comments? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, I believe we have a motion second on the floor over here.
Councilmember Orlando?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
And Councilmember Owens?
Since I didn't get an answer to my question, I'm gonna say no. Thank you.
The motion passes 6-1 to approve ordinance number 1589, first reading.
Okay.
Hey, Crystal, that was the, resolution prior to that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Yes.
and I think I switched, yes. For, resolution 2028. Thank you, Clay.
Meanwhile, moving in our agenda, to item number 7, council matters removed from the consent agenda. We just had item B. We just discussed that item. Moving to item number 8 on our agenda, which is new business. Moving to new business item number 1, Councilmember Carbone, would you present this for our consideration?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action. First reading of ordinance number 1589. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thank you, sir. This is the first reading of ordinance that's been in the making for years to facilitate through the various capital improvement programs and financing agreements. This is the actual issuance and agreements with this Water Development Board for a large tranche, about a little over $100 million worth of funding for our surface water treatment plant. This is the largest group of that, and we also separately have Texas Water Development Board funding for our advanced meter infrastructure program. The terms of this financing are extremely favorable to the city, and Mr. John Roebuck, I believe, is on the phone and can walk us through his presentation and us on the background for how it's structured and the paybacks and so forth. So, Mr. Roebuck.
Mr. Pearson, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Mayor, council members, again, John Roebuck, BOK Financial. On the, I guess in your pack you have a presentation, scheduled events presentation. Let me kind of, if you don't mind, go through a little bit of history on this program before I get to the numbers and the market. This is the fifth and final commitment of a 4-year term for which we received about $159.5 million for the surface water treatment plant. One of the benefits of going through the Texas Water Development Board is that they privately place the bonds internally, and they give us a favorable rate, or what we call a subsidy, and each year that subsidy changes. And I'm happy to report this year is the largest subsidy amount, interest rate subsidy amount they've given us of 1.55%. So given the current market, subtract 1.55%, we've got a very low interest cost loan for the largest portion of this $159.5 million that we are authorized to this Texas Water Development Board loan grant. On page 2 is the current market review. The bond buyer index, this tracks the weekly average municipal bonds. I will say we have been very volatile ever since about March, second week of March. We've seen rates move 50 basis points in a single day. That being said, we're still in a low rate environment. In fact, currently we're at this presentation is showing 2.25. We're actually at 2.58 right now. So we're about 30 basis points higher than the all-time low, but well below the historical average. On page 2, estimated debt service requirements. Again, we're issuing $107,600,000 in bonds at an interest rate, current market interest rate, less than 1.55% subsidy. After the fee that they recoup for issuing this debt, the Texas Water Development Board recoups, we'll have proceeds of $105,448,000 for the city for the surface water treatment plant project. Page 3 shows the estimated source uses of funds. Again, $107,600,000 in bonds, less that origination fee for Texas Water Development Board of $2,152,000, which is their standard fee of 2% of the total amount. It leaves you proceeds of $105,448,000 in proceeds for the city. And with that subsidy, based on today's market rates, the estimated all-cost interest rate is of 0.719%. So I want to say it's free money, but it's pretty sticking close. And then down below is the issuance costs that are paid out of pocket by the city after the deal's closed. And then to accomplish this, if you look at the next page, tentative schedule events. Tonight, May 4th, we're having the first reading. We'll actually receive the final rates from the Texas Water Event Board next Monday morning. Then we'll come to you on the 18th with the second reading. We're going to ask you to approve the sale. And then once you approve the sale, Rick Whitty and Tanya Fisher over at ORIC, your bond counsel, will take the documents and have them approved by the Attorney General, and will close on June 16th, at which point you'll receive the funds. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Again, just with the interest rate environment we're in and the subsidy, it's probably the lowest cost debt we'll ever issue.
Any questions, Leo and John? On mute. I don't believe we have any questions for you.
Hey, Mayor, I've got a couple before we let him go.
Oh, okay.
With the current volatility in the interest rate, when the TWDB locks in next Monday morning, are they locking as of a point in time to close on Friday, or what is that pegged to?
Yes, sir. If they give us the rates on Monday morning, it'll be as rates close Friday. Yes, sir.
Okay. If it's an up day, do we have any flexibility in this?
That's something we've started. I actually have an email into him to ask if we could pick the day. My guess is we'll be able to fluctuate between maybe Friday and Monday, maybe Tuesday, but we probably have a 3-day period to do so. And even with that, Councilmember Carbone, rates for the AA rating that the city has with the 1.55%, we're not going to see a lot of fluctuation from that just because of that subsidy. We may see 3 or 4 basis points in the front end, 5 or 6 in the back end, the most we've seen the last couple of days. Well, I don't think we'll see a 50 basis point change like we saw when this whole coronavirus started.
Mm-hmm. And
if we do, we'll push it back.
Okay. I guess the ordinance as written gives you the flexibility to do that if you see the rates you don't like.
Well, actually, we'll have to come back and probably start the period over, or process over on the May 18th meeting. But we'll have the flexibility. We have the only caveat we have, Councilmember Carbone, is that we close before July 31st of this year, which is when this authorization expires. And at that point, we'd have to go back and do a new application to get this reduced cost funding.
Okay. All right. Well, you've got a good history of under-promising and over-delivering and coming in good, so I assume we'll continue that trend.
I hope so. A lot more volatility than has been in the past. I hope so, yes, sir.
So, final question. On the private placement memorandum, these are revenue bonds only, right? They're not GOs by the city?
That's correct.
So, on page 3 of the PPM, it starts talking about the COVID-19 effects on the city and how we may have to adjust tax rates. And I guess I just wanted to clarify that because the language in here makes it seem like they're closer to GO bonds than revenue bonds.
Well, we actually this disclosure it's changing every day. Obviously, with the new announcements or executive orders from the governor, we have to update this pretty much weekly. It just talks about the possible effects of the city. So, although these are being paid for by water and sewer revenue, the disclosure really talks about sales tax revenue, property values within the city being affected. So, what it's getting to is that it could have a negative effect on the operations of the city, which in turn could potentially have an impact on the ability to pay it back. Although these pledge water and sewer bonds, obviously, water and sewer rates, I don't believe are being impacted by coronavirus at this point, but sales tax and potentially property values are. So it's giving a full picture of how it's going to could possibly affect the city.
Okay. And I guess final thing, I don't know if you've heard, we've got a little utility billing snafu. Is that going to need to be disclosed anywhere?
I will get with Rick Whitty. I think Rick actually, I'm not sure if I know Rick Whitty called in. I'm not sure he's able to speak, but I'll get with Rick Whitty after this call and find out if we need to put something in there or not.
Okay. All right. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Good. Any questions or comments from council?
Mayor,
Woody,
I've got a couple of comments to make on this. With the current debt, we got $303 million, I guess it is, in the enterprise fund. And we're selling this to bring it up to $420 million, 600,000 so on there, and it's being debt, to pay it off until 2050. But one of the things I want to visit on page 23 of page 169, there was a statement made by me, and I went back and looked it up, of saying that we had spent, or actually in our meter, change out the meters. I think I made the statement, or did make the statement, that we spent $13 million on that. And Trent Epperson, you corrected me on that. Said we're at $3 million. And I see here on page 23, it looks like that the actual number was a little over $10 million that we spent on that, as out of a series of bonds of 2017A, $10,225,000, and that was for the change out of the meters. And going back through this week on some of our council meetings, we've really not had an update on that. And so if you could, I'd like to see us take a look at the $10 million that we spent on the meters and see where we're at on changing the meters out. I don't know if that can, for each of the 27,000 meters that we've got across the city through there, but we've not had an update on changing those, and that's a pretty large expenditure. And what have we accomplished out of the program by that $10 million expenditure? Is there any way we can get any kind of information on that before long? Since all this was coming under the water program, which is not in favorable condition between council and the city and the residents and everybody else. So I think, this would be good to come in, since we have expended those dollars. I guess some of them, maybe we've only spent $3 million out of the $10 million in bonds that we sold. So I guess, Fred, I'm really directing this back to you. If we could come up with some kind of a program response on that, to take a look at that and see where we're at on the replacement of those and our expenditures today.
I'm happy to forward you out again. We did a report probably in the last 4 weeks that was pretty extensive about the whole change-out program, but I'll send that out to you again.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any further comment based on staff report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, I believe we have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Orlando?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Skip me.
That's it. I was about to call you. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Awesome. The motion passes 7-0 to adopt the first reading of ordinance number 1589.
Okay, with that information in the record, let us move to new business item number 2. Councilmember Little, would you present this for our consideration?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration of possible action resolution number R 2020-85. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Moving with this, we're in discussion. Staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a second phase of 3 phases involving public roads that are west of Main Street, State Highway 35, this particular one being Rice Dryer. Again, a public street, a number of, a number of business uses along the road. road's in very rough condition, was not built up anywhere near to city standards. There has been development along there, including the Caterpillar energy operation there at the west end that next to the railroad tracks. So it's facilitated with the Pearland Economic Development Corporation. Phase 1 involves some drainage. This is phase 2 for the reconstruction of the road. Would be funded by PDC as opposed to the city at some point having to figure out how to come in and do that. Phase 3 will be to the north, that road, but got the bids here for out of the competition and recommending consideration to award for the $970,000 to Marcon, as noted here, for reconstructing our Rice Dryer Road. Nothing to add, sir.
Council, have a question or comment based on staff report?
Yes, Mayor. Two things. One, sort of moving forward with Rice Dryer. I think we've had some commitments and some success along that road. But I'd like us to stop at Rice Dryer. I don't think it's prudent for us to move forward with Halleck. I believe I've mentioned that previously in the discussion about PEC's debt and what we're spending and at least my view of PEDC's responsibilities. I don't see a whole lot of benefit in the investment by PEDC on Halleck Road when it comes to economic development. I believe that's a road that we desire to have improved that should go through the projects department and be funded through normal city funds. I just don't think that improvement of Halleck at this point right now is something that I want to see PEDC move forward with. That could change if we have a private developer that wishes to invest in the road in some form or fashion, or wishes to put a development out there that would clearly require us to improve Halleck in order to be able to close a deal. That may be more appropriate for PEDC. So it's my wish that we get through, we approve this resolution, we get the Rice Dryer improvements completed, and then any other improvements in phase 3 are on pause until we have a significant investment from private developer along Halleck.
Okay, any other question or comment?
I guess can staff tell us about the timing of phase 3, or because I think we had discussed this in the past, and is that on hold for now, or were we still planning to move forward?
I'll let Matt go detail the schedule for phase 3, but there has been, Matt, correct me, I believe design work for 3 that PDC's authorized, and as part of the package, so it all gets coordinated. We have not, to the best of my knowledge, started on anything beyond that design, but Matt can talk to that. And there is, I think, another side to that, and so if there's interest in council revisiting that schedule and going through that, but there are some rationale and arguments I think that need to be considered. As part of a council discussion, it sounds like. But Matt, can you talk about when phase 3 would be coming up?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Person. Mayor and Council, we did the PER, obviously, so we have 30% engineering done on all phases. In phase 3, we have just gotten solicited proposals, and we were going to be taking those to the board in June for their consideration. Obviously, we have had new development on Halleck Road. Besser is currently a plumbing long-time Pearland small business. Is just under construction right now with their new facility that would access Halleck. The Texas Cooling facilities opened about 2 years ago. They access both Rice Dryer and Halleck. Lucas Properties developed 3 tilt-up spec buildings there that are all full of tenants in that facility. So there are properties, and then Third Coast Terminals just bought property also on Halleck. So we have had quite a bit of development on Halleck, and have had created some expectations through the platting process that we were going to be, reconstructing Halleck.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with moving forward with Halleck. I just have an issue with the funding mechanism. I don't think that's a PEDC function to just improve the road, unless it's part of attracting a potential business. So I do think that there's a value in improving Halleck. I just think it needs to go through the capital improvement process as opposed to be PEDC.
Any further comments from council regarding this issue?
Yeah, I'd just say that I guess before you take that to the EDC board, if we need to get a consensus on council, or I mean, it's a valid point, and I guess if I don't want to waste all of staff's time on the bidding and tabulation and all of that, if we're not comfortable in the funding mechanism.
This is just for phase 3, not the current resolution, correct?
Good. Any other comment or question? Madam Secretary, I believe we may have a motion on the floor here. And a second.
Councilmember Orlando?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens? Councilmember Owens?
Did you get that?
Oh, no, I didn't, sir.
Oh. Yeah, I believe got it.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0.
Okay. That information in the record. Let's move to item number 3, new business. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration of possible action resolution number R2020-84. So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second there?
Yeah, second from Member Perez.
We have a second motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thanks, sir. As part of the takeover of a mud over there at South Down, the city inherited this water facility. As we described in the background, it is more than time to replace that and modernize that facility. The 1 million gallon tank that's been bid out and designed with the additional electronics and so forth will, per the water plan, is the sufficient size for that. And this will give it the next useful life for that. So we went out and got good bids and recommending to W.W. Payton, who we work with, for just under $1.7 million to fulfill that project construction. Nothing to add.
Based on the staff report. Does council have any question or comment based on staff report?
Yes, Mayor. Just one item on the tabulation. There's an $18,000 allowance for painting the city logo on the tank. Given that it's kind of set in kind of deep into a subdivision, and only a handful of people will ever drive by it, I would like to amend the motion to remove that expenditure, or at least give staff guidance not to spend the $18,000 on a logo that nobody's going to see.
Do we have a second for that item?
Second.
We have an amended motion on the table now.
Darren, would we need to amend the motion, or do you feel like there's enough clarity if we say we just don't want that expenditure made, that allowance to be expended as part of the project?
I would prefer having that built into an amended motion, just so that staff has the clear direction from council and shows that the decision to do so was based upon council authorization.
As you wish, my friend. So.
Okay, the council has an amended motion. We did have a second on that item. I believe Councilmember Moore. Did you second that item?
Correct, Mayor.
Okay, very good. We now have an amended motion on the table. What is the council's decision on that? A motion for the amended motion?
Mayor, we have a motion and a second. I guess it's time to vote.
Yes.
Mayor, when we amend that motion, do we need to take the 18,000 off of the 1.69?
That's what the motion's for.
The motion is to amend to remove the 18,000, and then we'd approve the motion for the reduced amount.
Yeah, normally you'd come in and reduce the amount within the amendment. That's okay.
You do have a second? Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone. Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez.
You already got me.
I did. Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
The motion to amend, removing $18,000 for the logo is approved 7-0.
Okay, we now have an amended motion on the table. Is there any further clarification on that item? We have none. I guess we do have a motion second on the floor here.
Councilmember Perez. Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Orlando.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0 to amend the motion.
Okay, we now have amended motion, staff report.
Nothing to add on the item, sir.
Yeah, we'll be moving on to the next agenda item now.
Okay, you feel comfortable with that one, okay? Item number 4, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, resolution number R2020-83, so moved.
Second. Councilman Little.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. We're discussion, staff report.
Thank you. This is another one of our capital improvements for shoring up and strengthening our wastewater system. This being for a lift station on off of Cullen, just west there, and went out, got bids, and per the design, this is recommendation for award for R&B, just under $770,000 for the required improvements to bring this one up to snuff and make it safe and functioning for us. So nothing to add, sir.
Okay. Council, have any question or comment based on the staff report? Hearing none, I think we have a motion second on the floor, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Orlando.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, with that information in the record, let's move to item number 9, which is Mayor Council for council consideration and discussion. There were none here offered for tonight. Moving to item number 10, call for an executive session under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with the city attorney regarding confidential legal matters associated with potential amendments to Chapter 2 of the City Code. is the, I believe the council would like to move forward with this item. And so, council have a discussion on this item at this point?
Mary, I'm going into executive session.
We're going to go to executive session, then we'll talk about it, okay? The council is retiring into executive session at, exactly 7:30. And, with that information, we're ready to retire into executive session. Let's move to item number 9, new business continued. Councilman Owens, would you put that on the table for us?
Consideration of possible action regarding confidential legal matters associated with amendments, Chapter 2 of the City Code. So moved.
Second. More. There's no action.
Yeah, Mayor, I was going to say that there is no action on that item this evening, so
Okay.
now that there's been a motion and a second, dispose of it by indicating that there will be no formal action on it.
The motion is for no action.
Okay.
I think we have to vote on it, Mayor.
Those in favor of, we have a motion in favor of that? That was a motion second, I didn't?
No, there's no action. There's nothing to vote upon.
I think the idea is to take back the motion the second, Mayor.
Okay. We could consider that as no action at this point.
Can read it backwards.
We're redacting the motion in the second.
We've got a motion and a second, but we have no action to take.
Mayor, we can, since the motion and second was made, we can have that motion rescinded and set, and by the individual that made it.
Okay.
Woody, can you rescind the motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we take the item number 5 and rescind that.
Gary, can you second it?
We have a motion. Who made that second? Moore? Moore, okay.
And if we can get a vote on that.
Okay. Those in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Except I'm going to get the Crystal, get our secretary to handle that. You can say ayes better than I can.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember, Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Orlando? Did he have a?
Aye.
Okay.
No. Yeah, aye.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0 to rescind the original motion.
Okay.
And then there will be no action taken at this point.
No action taken. All right. Moving in our agenda to item number 12, other business, there is none. And number 13 is adjournment at 49.